Welcome everyone to the day 3 of building the Playwright framework. Today we are going to talk about configuration management. Before we go into that, I'll just talk about what we did so far. So on day 1, what we did was install Playwright and write a basic test. On day 2, we spoke about page object models. So quick revision, page object models are nothing but programming paradigm which we can use in our automation test, which allow us to write our code in much more reusable manner. Um, just to have a quick recap, here is what we did. We created a couple of page objects. Page objects are nothing but a class where we define our locators. So this is the point where we will not have to repeat our locators so that any change in the application only one place we need to change our locators. And then there are some actions which can be performed on this page. This class is then used in our tests. If you can see, we have home page where we navigated, we started, and then we also have the second page object and we are validating this. Um, let's now dive into what we want to do today. We will talk about why we exactly need configuration management. So in any real world project, you will have multiple environments. So uh, multiple environments. So you will have something called as QA environment or let's say dev environment, then you will have a staging environment, and then finally you will have a prod environment. Now, your application behavior is supposed to be the same across all the environments, but um, having said that, the test data, for example, can be really different, right? So you will not have production data just available like that in your lower environments. So anything that is built by the devs will normally go to the dev environment, and your test cases will decide whether it can move on to the next stage or not. Uh, and from there, if it is working fine, then you will move that code to prod. Now, even though the application behavior is same across all the different environments, there will be things like timeouts or URLs and test data which should be different in different cases in different environments. So what we don't want to do is write test cases for each environment separately. We don't want to repeat ourselves, which is also what we discussed yesterday. So it is very important to do this configuration management right at the start when you are building a framework, so you don't have to duplicate your work for different environments. Now that we know why is configuration management important, let's talk about how we can achieve this. So, how we can achieve this? So, you can see we have created a new directory called as config, and in there we have created a folder called as environments. And you can see we have dev, prod, and staging, and then we have something called as base config. Now, when we say things are going to be there will be things which will be different across the environment, but there will also be things which will be same across the environments. Now, we don't want to have that repeated in each environment file. So what we do is we first create a base config, which will, let's say, contain these properties where we are talking about what, no matter which environment I run the test cases, my reporting should always look the same, or the retries should always look the same. Maybe retries you will change. So what we're trying to do is we are trying to load a base config, and from there on we will decide how we will go about changing or using the updated config for different environments. So we have built something called as XJS. What this does is basically this is your configuration environment loader. If you can see what we are doing here first is loading the base config, which will contain all the different configs which are required to run our test cases. Now, once we have the entire config, what we want to know is which environment do we want to execute a test case. And we have some valid environments that we have defined. Anything apart from this will be just, test will not run because that is not a valid input that a program is expecting. So once we know what environment, so we will get from process.env is nothing but a way in Node.js to fetch environment variables, and we are saying if your test environment or node environment, whatever is defined when running the test, we are saving it in the environment file. Based on the environment file, if you can see that we are loading the file which is needed to execute these test cases, and there's some merging of configs. So because we already have all the values in our base config, we are merging it with the new config, like the environment specific config, and then we will get our actual entire config available with us. So I spoke about index.js, but where exactly is index.js falls from? If you remember correctly, whenever we initialize a Playwright project, we get a Playwright conf. In Playwright config, you can see I have uh, loaded this environment header configuration, right? And then uh, we are defining our config here, and in config.debug is where all the magic which is needed to run these test cases available. In index.config, if you go, we should have a debug method which is loading the config for us. So as you can see, we write config which calls the index. Index config in turn loads the environment specific config here, environment specific config here, and based on that we get our exact values for which we want to run the test cases. Let's take an example here. So this is the test where we are using our config, and you can see whether we have written the same test cases, and we are just trying to see how the like what kind of timeouts we are seeing when we run the test cases. So, and we have updated our package.json to reflect the same. So you can see over here, we have like test dev, test prop, right? And in test environment, we are passing the environment which is needed to run the test cases. So the test is triggered by this command, which will go to playwright config, which will then go to index.js, and which will then load the respective environment which is needed. Let's take a quick example on how it actually looks like when we run this from the terminal. So hold on. Yeah, let's see. If you can see, it is saying that it is running this command in current configuration, which is low, and you can see that the test is executed in non-headless mode. Okay, it seems that we have made some mistake in providing the environment URL, but okay, or maybe there is again this data validation that we have seen previously. So we can see there are 8 test cases that are passed, but the total number of executions is too much because it has ran all the test cases in this directory. Right now, let's see what happens to the test which is specifically in our config.js. So playwright.com is running fine, which is good, but okay, let's take a look at the logs. Okay. As we can see from the log, it says the config is loaded for the dev environment. And you can see that the timer here is 60,000 milliseconds, which is 60 seconds. If I go to my dev, and you can see that the timer here is same as it is saying in this. That means the configuration is loaded correctly. So now let's run it with staging environment and see like what kind of values it is loading. Staging, you can see that it is showing that the test will be executed on staging, and you can see that the timeout now it is showing us 45,000 instead of that. And you can also see that the tests have been executed in parallel instead of single threaded it was happening before. Let's go and see how. So you can see timeout value has changed from our previous test, and you can also see that the test is now executing in the headless mode. And all these tests will fail because we are using incorrect URLs here. This was just for the demo purpose. See, the URL is different and it's all the test cases should fail here. If any of them passes, they will be bad. Uh, okay. We will just trying to see where have you defined the read writes. I guess it is a default value. So what I'm trying to show over here is that based on the environment that we executed a test of test cases, we'll see. Yeah, I don't care about the result of the test cases. What I'm more concerned about was whether our configurations are loaded correct or not, which has happened. I think that's it from my side with respect to this session. Uh, yeah. So today, just to quickly summarize, we quickly summarize quickly summarized about quickly summarized about environment configuration management today and why is it important. And we discussed about like why is it important that we do configuration management because it will allow us to run our test cases once instead of multiple times. The write our test cases once instead of multiple times. So we have completed day three today. Uh, do let us know feedback on how you are finding this. Okay, it's bad. Uh, day three, day 24, this, configuration management. Okay, yeah. So we'll be back tomorrow and we'll be talking about like more in details about other things. I have not yet thought about what we'll be talking about tomorrow. I'll sit today after this video is completed and discuss over it. Think over it and come back to it. By the way, guys, if you uh, would give me some feedback on our test case generated, that will be really awesome. Let me quickly show you what I'm talking about. So, if you go to this website, so we have a website called is11inch.com. It's a little bit slow. I will figure out why. We have created a very simple tool right now which will help you like generate test cases or test scenarios. It's free as of now and you would need to sign in. I'm already signed in and attached and you can fill this fields and generate test cases. A quick sample. Uh, You can generate the test cases here for manual testing as well as with automated testing and let us know how it works for you. Maybe we will discuss about this in detail sometime later and give you a proper demo of this. But for now, if you get this look, just quickly go and use this tool and give me feedback on how it is looking. That would be really awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.